I actually have a video to record now, Salo, so if you don't mind, I'd like to get on with that, please. Well, hi there guys, and welcome to another video. So guys, some of you seem to like it when I do long time-lapse videos of machine builds, so I'm going to do one of those for you today. Usually it's an X99 based machine, but today, no, I'm actually going to be building something relatively modern, using modern parts, if you can imagine it. So what am I building? Well, I decided I need a PC for Home Assistant, because that's something people do. I'm going to be building a mini ITX machine. It's a long time since I built one of those. And I'm going to be building it in this, a Fractal Terra case. I don't know much about the Fractal Terra. I have seen a couple of review videos and a couple of build videos. We'll see how we get on with that. I bought a Corsair SFX form factor power supply because that's what goes in there. Never used one of those before. For a motherboard, I've gone for something relatively modest. A Gigabyte B650 IAX. Nothing too noticeable about this. I mean, it has a single PCI Express 4x16 slot. It has 2.5 gig LAN, which, as you know, I love, and it has got onboard DisplayPort and HDMI. For the processor, I've gone with a AMD Ryzen. What have I got? A 8600G. Went with the G edition because I want to use the built-in graphics. I don't want to put a separate GPU in here. Now I know with Home Assistant, if you're streaming your video into it, you can run it through AI models and identify things in it. Maybe at some point in the future I'll consider that, but I don't really need that for now. So yeah, just going to be having a CPU only build. I've got 64 gigs of 5600 megahertz Vengeance, only real RAM choice I would ever go with. Now, heatsink fan, the Terra has got a movable mid-plane so that you can change the size of the CPU and motherboard compartment and the GPU compartment. Now, as I'm not fitting a GPU, I'm hoping to minimise the size of that compartment and possibly use this fan. So I've got this fan. This is a 65mm high fan. It's going to be close as to whether this fits, but I'm going to give it a go. But in case it doesn't fit, I got myself a lower profile 37mm noctua fan. Both the same basic affair, just one with a bigger heatsink than the other. We'll see which one we get in with when we get to that point. I'm probably going to use the PCI Express slot for a 4-way bifurcated NVMe card, just to chuck a bunch of storage in here, possibly for recording my video in the long term. But we'll see. Nothing is set in stone yet. So, I'm going to get my scissors now, and I'm going to start opening these boxes up. Right, that's all of that unboxed. So no real surprises there. The motherboard and CPU and memory all appear as expected. Both heatsink fans, I've not really taken them out. SFX power supplies, my goodness, they're small. Very impressed by that. So, the Terra case. This is a nice piece. So all the sides and top come off really easily. So the adjustability of the interior, very much liking that. So there's 4 screws. They initially come with these plastic pieces on that stop any movement regardless of how loose or tight the screws are. So you take these out so that you get the adjustability. I guess that's just for shipping so it doesn't rattle about even if the screws get loose. So it's just a free moving thing. There's 7 positions, but I assume those numbers are just on there so that if you're choosing position 2 through 6, you can see on all 4 of them exactly where to screw it tight so that you don't get any skewing. I've gone all the way to the 1 position, so yeah, I didn't really need to use the guides. I just pushed it all the way and tightened it back up. So that's left me with a big bay on one side there and a little bay on the other. It has a power connection pass-through, so a power connector on the back going through to where you mount the power supply in here, so that's good. It has the riser for the PCI E4, which comes in at that side of the motherboard, which is good. yeah, not really much more to say about that. It just seems pretty good so far. But obviously the proof of the pudding will be when I come to actually mount things in there. So first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my CPU on the motherboard, and before I apply any thermal paste, I'm just going to loosely attach the bigger of the two heatsink fans, see if it does fit with sufficient clearance in that section, and if it does, I'll then take it back off, apply the thermal compound, get everything ready to go with the RAM and all, and then get it mounted in there. I'll probably just mount the power supply before I do any of that because, well, that's just a given. So, right, I'm going to get on with that now. Right, I have mounted the power supply. Very, very easy install. Though I will note that it's a good idea to attach the modular cables before you put the power supply in. I think it would be basically impossible to do it afterwards. So about this bottom panel, I don't think that comes off. Maybe it does. I decided not to attach any PCIe power cables to this. I initially was going to put two in and just tie them up in the bay just in case I added a GPU later, because it would be a pain to add them later, but I thought no, let's maximise airflow, let's accept that if I ever do add a GPU to this it will be a right irritation, so not done that. In terms of the heatsink and fan, yes, the larger one fits with ample space with the mid-plane in the one position. There is absolutely ample room at the top of there. Motherboard fits an absolute beauty inside this case, very happy with that. CPU installation was easy, memory installation was easy. This particular Noctua fan, this is my first AM5, went on very, very easily indeed. No complex instructions to follow there. So yes, that's the basics done now. So I will just plug in front panel connectors. I did plug in the motherboard CPU power connector because I thought it was going to be very difficult to get to afterwards, but I've still got the main motherboard power connector to plug in, then the front panel connectors, the PCI riser, and then I will just fire it up as is before I add anything else to it, just to make sure it posts, and then I will go and yes, sort out an NVMe for the boot drive and my 4-port NVMe card to go in here. Anyway, for the moment let's get this finished, connected up and powered on and see what happens. Right, that is the basics done. I have done rather a lot of cable management for a machine that I haven't even turned on yet, so I may come to regret that if I have to take it all apart again. But yes, let's get it powered up for the first time while you watch, so that my failure can be truly, truly enjoyed if there's anything heinously wrong. Right, so that's the keyboard plugged in, that's the mouse. I don't need a mouse plugged in. I haven't even got a disc in here to boot from, so but I'm going to plug it in just because I can. Right, and then the HDMI plugged in here for the onboard graphics on that chip. Right, so that's screen, power, keyboard, mouse. That ought to do it. The power supply, of course, is internal, so I will need to take the top off to flick the switch, and then hopefully, if I connected the button on the front panel correctly, and nothing happens at all, as is so very traditional in these situations. Well, I hear a little bit of arcing when I plug the power cable into the PSU, so there's definitely connection there. Best case, I connected the power button on the front to the wrong thing on the motherboard, and I connected it to power LED or something like that. Anyway, let me replug that. Let me just look at where it's supposed to go and see if we can fix it. Well, I was actually wrong. It actually had powered on, but it was almost silent. The PSU fan doesn't come on presumably until it hits a certain load. CPU fan basically doesn't make any noise, and there's no LEDs or anything, so it was actually turning on. And it's only when I pulled the power that I realised that it was actually turning on. But this motherboard seems to have no way of indicating what fault might be. So I'm going to have to think about that a little bit, because it's definitely on, the fan is going, but nothing is happening, nothing is coming out on the screen. So yeah, I need to put some thought into that to figure out what's going on. But I will return. We take this moment to stop for a brief custarded special. We have some ambrosia, Devon custard, so we're going to pop the lid off that, and we are going to pop it in the microwave, right in the middle there, for 1 minute of cooking time. And then we will get it out of the microwave, probably quite warm at this point. It feels a little warm. We'll stir it slightly to ensure that it is well mixed. And then let's see, how does this Devon custard taste? Delicious. Now, back to the feature presentation. Well, looks like I'm done for the day. This motherboard is not very premium, so no code outputs, no LEDs. Computers don't come with speakers anymore, so no beep codes. Literally nothing left to try. The internet's best suggestion is that this motherboard, if it's got a BIOS that's more than about 8 months old today, won't support the 8000 series CPUs without an update. And so I should install an older CPU and use that to do the BIOS update. If this was a more premium motherboard, some of the Gigabyte ones have a management controller on it, and you can just plug a USB stick in without even having a CPU and do a BIOS update. This one's not premium enough for that. So I guess I will see if I can go and buy a previous gen CPU of really low spec, cheap, somewhere, so that I can update the BIOS and see if that fixes it. Joy! I can see why Bam likes custard so much. Time has passed. Last time you saw me, it was a Friday. Now it's a Sunday. So I did order myself a 7000 series Ryzen on Amazon for next day delivery. All looked well. It said dispatch. Saturday progressed, and then at the end of Saturday, Amazon just did a whole, it's not going to be delivered today, no, we don't really know when it's going to be delivered. If it hasn't been delivered by Monday, you can request a refund. And it's like, of all the things to get lost, what a pain in the bumhole. So, yeah, I don't have the CPU yet, so I ordered a pack of, well, not to order one, but the minimum quantity I could order was 10. I ordered a pack of PC speakers, so that I can get a beep code out of this motherboard, hopefully. And I'm hoping for a beep code that says something like processor initialization failed, something along those lines. I'm hoping to get any kind of beeps anyway. So I'm now going to fit one of these PC speakers to the PC speaker port on this motherboard and hope for some beep codes. I guess I have to wait until Monday so that I can cancel the lost processor and then order another one. I mean, I could just order another one now and hope that both don't turn up. I just don't really do returns. Anyway, let's start with beep codes first. Okay, so I got the manual for the motherboard because I couldn't quite figure out where the PC speaker was. It's not one of the old 4-pin with the 1 and 4 connected, it's just a 2-pin. So, I don't know, I assume it's still driven in the same way. Literally, what harm could come by forcing the issue? So I've converted this into a 2-pin. See what happens. Right, well, it's plugged into the thing that says speaker, so it'll either make a beep or it won't, and if it doesn't, I won't know whether it's because this type of speaker isn't compatible or there's something else wrong. So it'll either beep or I'll have no further insight than I had before. Right, power is plugged in, power supply is on, let's see what happens. Button pressed, CPU fan is spinning, and there are no sounds to hear. I did get that multimeter and make sure that there was a resistance across the speaker. But yeah, no sounds. So we have no further insight than we had before. I guess I'll just have to wait for a processor to turn up and swap it and see if that makes any difference. This is not going well. Hey Brita, I've skipped the video to record now, so if you don't mind, I'd like to get on with that, please. Well, I just sat in front of the camera for about 35 minutes, talking at it, doing various things, only to discover it wasn't recording. So you have missed the joy of me doing things with this machine, including updating the BIOS, and lo and behold, getting something to happen. So that's good. Where we stand at the moment is we have the 8600G processor in there. We do have a temporary GPU in here, a GT730, for reasons I can't bother to go into now. But yes, I haven't yet installed an NVMe. I do have these two 4-port NVMe cards loaded with NVMe's. I'm going to probably put 4 of these 6 Intel NVMe's onto one of the cards and put it in there instead of that discrete GPU, and then this other one I'll just use as a boot device. So yeah, next thing to do, get that all rigged up and make sure it sees all the hardware. Well, that was involved, so I played with some BIOS settings and made the machine unbootable, and the jumper for clearing the CMOS didn't seem to work for me, so I unplugged the battery and went away for a while and came back and plugged it back in, and that did the job. After that, I continued to play with the BIOS settings because of the PCI Express bifurcation. Now, I had prepared this lovely 4-port NVMe card with 4 1TB Intel NVMe's on it, but sadly it seems like the onboard PCIe on this is only a ×8, and it can be bifurcated, but obviously only into 2x4s, not 4x4s. So I have now swapped this board with 4 on it with a board with 2 on it, and so yeah, I now have the built-in NVMe slot with an NVMe in it, and then 2 on the 4-port board. So anyway, that's fine for my purposes for Home Assistant. I don't know why I thought I needed 4 to be ample. So yeah, that's about it. Got the NVMe card in, processors in, memories in. I'm running off the integrated graphics absolutely fine. Just booted up a Windows to go USB stick, but yeah, I think we're kind of there now, so I will just close it up and then go and stick Ubuntu on here and put it through its paces, and then yeah, get a Home Assistant set up. So one final look before we hook it all up. So on one side we have the CPU side of the enclosure, where we have the motherboard, the riser for the expansion area, CPU heatsink and fan, power supply mounted in the front, all very nice. And then we go around to the other side, and we have over this side, so I've mounted the PSU so that it's exhausting into the expansion bay. You can mount it either way around, but obviously I've not got a GPU in here, so this is probably the better side to have that going. Nice bit of length for a GPU there. I have of course adjusted the mid plane so that I've maximised the CPU bay size. I think if you maximise the GPU bay size, you could easily fit the triple wide card in there, easily. So yes, I've just got my NVMe card in there, looking a little lonely. And yes, that's that side of the enclosure. So without further ado, let's now go and plug it all in. Well, here it is now, in situ, ready to go. Press the power button. Slightly unnerving, this machine, because when you press the power button, no illuminations, no real sounds at all, but I have done this enough times now to know that it is indeed coming on. And then hopefully at some point something comes on the screen to be the proof of the pudding. There we go. There we have it, powered on. Right, well, that's got Ubuntu installed on it now. I gave it a quick stress test. CPU barely heated up at all, so I'm very, very happy with that. It's basically a machine ready to go with what I need to do with it, with a couple extra NVMEs for my camera footage to be stored on. Well guys, that's about it for today's video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. And guys, as always, please do feel free to comment below. I'd be interested to know what a recent machine is that you have built, and whether you had any toils and troubles, so please do let me know. Well guys, there's not very much more for me to say in this video, except that I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then guys, there's very little more for me to say, except, well, goodbye.